What if the people hurting you the most only have power because you keep giving them access to your emotions? What if the greatest revenge is not proving them wrong, arguing back, or making them regret losing you, but becoming so emotionally strong that their words, opinions, and actions can no longer disturb your peace? Today, you are about to discover how emotionally powerful people protect their energy, guard their peace, and become completely unreachable to toxic people. Stay until the end, because one of these lessons could completely change the way you deal with negativity forever. In life, not everyone deserves access to your heart, your mind, or your emotions. Some people enter your life to support your growth, while others arrive only to drain your energy, manipulate your feelings, and keep you trapped in cycles of stress and frustration. The truth is that toxic people survive on emotional reactions. They feed on your anger, your explanations, your guilt, and your need to be understood. The moment you stop giving them emotional access, their power begins to disappear. Becoming emotionally unreachable is not about becoming cold or heartless. It is about becoming wise enough to protect your inner peace. Today, we will explore 10 powerful lessons that will help you rise above toxicity and take control of your emotional world. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing that they owe everyone an explanation for every decision they make. They spend countless hours trying to justify their choices, defend their actions, and convince people who have already decided not to understand them. The harsh truth is that many toxic people do not ask questions because they genuinely want clarity. They ask questions because they want control. They want to make you doubt yourself, second-guess your decisions, and feel guilty for living according to your own values. No amount of explaining will ever satisfy someone who is committed to misunderstanding you. They will twist your words, ignore your intentions, and create new arguments every time you provide an answer. The more you try to defend yourself, the more power you unknowingly hand over to them. True confidence begins the moment you realize that your life is not a courtroom and you are not required to present evidence for every choice you make. Emotionally strong people understand something that most people learn only after years of frustration: not every opinion deserves a response, not every accusation deserves a defense, and not every misunderstanding needs to be corrected. They know that peace is often found in silence rather than endless debates. When someone is determined to criticize, judge, or manipulate you, explaining yourself becomes a trap. You find yourself stuck in a cycle where every answer creates another question and every defense creates another attack. Instead of protecting your energy, you waste it trying to win approval from people who never intended to give it. The strongest response is often no response at all. Silence is not weakness. Silence is self-respect. It sends a powerful message that your confidence does not depend on someone else's agreement. It shows that you trust your own judgment enough to stop seeking permission from people who have done nothing to earn a place in your decision-making process. The day you stop explaining yourself to everyone is the day you begin reclaiming your personal power. You stop carrying the burden of proving your worth and start focusing on living your truth. You become less concerned with being understood by everyone and more committed to understanding yourself. Some people will disagree with you. Some will judge you. Some will create stories about you that have nothing to do with reality. Let them. Their opinions are not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to protect your peace, stay true to your values, and continue moving forward without constantly looking back for validation. The most powerful people in the world are not the ones who can explain themselves the best, they are the ones who remain calm, focused, and unshaken when others demand explanations they do not owe. The less you defend yourself against unnecessary criticism, the more confidence you develop. And the more confidence you develop, the less you feel the need to explain yourself at all. Toxic people are experts at projecting their insecurities onto others. They carry hidden fears, disappointments, failures, and frustrations that they often refuse to acknowledge within themselves. Instead of confronting those emotions, they look for someone else to place them on. That is why they criticize your dreams when you dare to pursue something meaningful. They question your decisions when you choose a different path from the one they would take. They mock your ambitions when they are too afraid to chase ambitions of their own. Sometimes they even attack your appearance, your personality, or the way you live your life. Not because there is anything wrong with you, but because your confidence, growth, or independence reminds them of something they lack. Many people spend years carrying wounds that were never theirs to carry. They absorb the negative opinions of family members, friends, co-workers, classmates, or strangers and slowly begin to believe those opinions are facts. They start doubting their abilities because someone once called them incapable. They stop pursuing goals because someone said they would fail. They hide their true personality because someone made them feel unworthy. But what if those judgments were never an accurate reflection of who you are? What if they were simply reflections of the fears, limitations, and insecurities of the people speaking them? Understanding this truth can completely change the way you see criticism. It can help you stop carrying emotional burdens that were placed on you by people who never had the authority to define your worth in the first place. One of the greatest forms of emotional freedom comes from learning to separate opinions from truth. Most people never master this skill. They hear a criticism and immediately assume it must be true. They hear a negative comment and allow it to become part of their identity. But opinions and truth are not the same thing. Opinions are shaped by personal experiences, emotions, biases, preferences, fears, and beliefs. Two people can look at the exact same situation and form completely different opinions about it. One person may see your confidence and call it arrogance, while another sees the same confidence and calls it leadership. One person may view your independence as selfishness, while another sees it as strength. One person may criticize your determination, while another admires your discipline. If opinions can vary so dramatically from person to person, how can they be the ultimate measure of your value? The answer is simple: they cannot. Truth is not created by someone else's approval or disapproval. Truth exists regardless of what people think. If you are working hard, growing, learning, and staying true to your values, that truth remains unchanged even if others fail to recognize it. Many successful people were once told they were not talented enough, smart enough, attractive enough, or capable enough. If they had mistaken those opinions for truth, they would have never become who they were meant to be. The moment you understand that not every criticism deserves acceptance, you stop giving strangers, critics, and toxic individuals control over your self-image. Think about how many opportunities people miss because they allowed someone else's opinion to become their reality. A person with incredible talent never starts a business because someone laughed at their idea. A gifted artist stops creating because someone told them they were not good enough. A young man never pursues his dream career because people around him convinced him it was impossible. A woman stays silent and hides her potential because she fears being judged. These stories happen every day. Not because people lack ability, but because they mistake external judgments for objective truth. Toxic people often speak with certainty, and certainty can be convincing. They may sound confident when they tell you that you cannot succeed. They may sound convincing when they tell you that your dreams are unrealistic. But confidence does not equal accuracy. Someone can be completely convinced about something and still be completely wrong. History is filled with examples of people who were doubted, mocked, rejected, and underestimated before they achieved greatness. The people who eventually succeeded were not necessarily the most talented. They were often the ones who refused to allow negative opinions to become permanent beliefs. They learned to trust their own vision even when others could not see it. Another important truth to remember is that people judge you through the lens of their own experiences. Someone who is afraid of failure may criticize your willingness to take risks. Someone who lacks self-confidence may feel uncomfortable around your confidence. Someone who has given up on their dreams may become irritated when they see you pursuing yours. Their judgment says more about their mindset than it does about your potential. Imagine looking into a distorted mirror. The reflection you see would not accurately represent reality. In many ways, toxic people's opinions work the same way. They view you through distorted lenses created by jealousy, insecurity, fear, resentment, or limited thinking. If you accept every distorted reflection as truth, you will never see yourself clearly. Emotionally strong people understand this. They listen, evaluate, and think critically. They do not automatically reject criticism, but they do not automatically accept it either. They ask themselves whether the criticism is constructive, whether it aligns with reality, and whether it can genuinely help them grow. If it can, they learn from it. If it cannot, they leave it behind without carrying unnecessary emotional weight. The moment you stop seeking validation from everyone around you, your life begins to change. You become less vulnerable to manipulation because your self-worth no longer depends on external approval. You stop constantly looking over your shoulder to see who agrees with you. You stop abandoning your goals simply because someone doubts them. Instead, you develop an internal source of confidence that cannot be easily shaken. This does not mean you become arrogant or ignore all feedback. It means you become selective about whose opinions you allow to influence your life. Not every voice deserves equal access to your mind. Not every critic deserves a seat at the table of your self-worth. The opinions that matter most should come from people who genuinely care about your growth, demonstrate wisdom through their actions, and offer feedback with honesty and respect. Everyone else is simply offering a perspective, not a verdict. When you truly learn to separate opinions from truth, something powerful happens. Toxic words begin to lose their ability to wound you. The insults that once kept you awake at night no longer control your emotions. The judgments that once made you question yourself no longer hold the same power. You realize that your value does not rise when someone praises you and it does not fall when someone criticizes you. Your worth remains constant because it is rooted in something deeper than public opinion. It is rooted in your character, your values, your integrity, your resilience, and your commitment to becoming the best version of yourself. People may misunderstand you. They may judge you unfairly. They may create stories about you that have nothing to do with reality. Let them. Their opinions belong to them. Your truth belongs to you. Never hand over the authority to define your worth to people who have not earned the right to speak into your life. The strongest individuals are not those who never face criticism. They are those who refuse to let criticism define who they are. The day you separate opinions from truth is the day you take back your power, protect your peace, and begin living according to your own standards rather than the expectations of others. Your energy is one of the most valuable resources you possess, yet many people treat it as if it is unlimited. Every conversation, every thought, every argument, and every emotional reaction requires energy. The problem is that toxic people know exactly how to drain it. They create unnecessary drama, provoke conflicts, spread negativity, and pull others into emotional battles that lead nowhere. Their goal is often not resolution but attention. They thrive on reactions because reactions give them a sense of power and control. Unfortunately, many people spend hours, days, or even years trying to fix relationships that continuously drain them, defend themselves against people who are determined to misunderstand them, or worry about opinions that have no real value. In doing so, they slowly lose the energy that could have been invested in their goals, passions, and personal growth. Imagine carrying a treasure chest filled with gold and giving away a piece every time someone criticizes you, argues with you, or demands your attention. Eventually, the treasure would disappear. Your emotional energy works the same way. Every unnecessary conflict takes something from you. Every moment spent dwelling on negativity steals time from your future. The strongest people understand that their energy is too precious to be wasted on people who contribute chaos instead of value. They choose carefully where their attention goes because they know that what receives their energy eventually shapes their life. Emotionally unreachable people have mastered the art of protecting their peace. They understand that not every argument deserves a response and not every problem deserves their involvement. They no longer feel responsible for fixing everyone's emotions, changing everyone's opinions, or carrying burdens that do not belong to them. Instead of becoming trapped in endless cycles of drama, they create boundaries that protect their mental and emotional well-being. While others are busy engaging in gossip, defending themselves against criticism, or reacting to every piece of negativity they encounter. Emotionally strong individuals focus on things that actually improve their lives. They invest their energy in learning new skills, strengthening their health, building meaningful relationships, pursuing their goals, and developing a stronger mindset. They understand that every hour spent feeding negativity is an hour stolen from personal growth. This does not mean they become cold or uncaring. It means they become selective. They recognize that energy is a limited resource and refuse to spend it carelessly. They know that peace is not something that happens by accident, it is something that must be protected through conscious choices. The more they value their energy, the less accessible they become to people who seek to drain it. Where your energy goes, your life follows. If your energy is constantly invested in conflict, resentment, stress, and negativity, those things will eventually dominate your life. You will feel exhausted, distracted, and emotionally overwhelmed. But when your energy is directed toward growth, purpose, discipline, health, and inner peace, your life begins to transform. Every positive action becomes an investment in a better future. Every moment spent learning instead of arguing makes you stronger. Every boundary you establish protects your peace. Every decision to walk away from unnecessary drama gives you more time to focus on what truly matters. The most successful and fulfilled people are not necessarily those who have the most talent or opportunity. They are often the people who have learned to guard their energy fiercely and invest it wisely. They understand that attention is a form of currency, and they refuse to spend it on things that provide no return. Protect your energy like a treasure because it determines the quality of your thoughts, your relationships, your success, and your happiness. The more carefully you guard it, the more power you gain over your own life, and the less control toxic people have over your peace and future. One of the hardest truths to accept in life is that you cannot change everyone, no matter how much you care about them. Many people remain trapped in toxic relationships, unhealthy friendships, and exhausting situations because they hold on to the hope that one day the other person will finally change. They believe that if they love harder, sacrifice more, explain themselves better, or remain patient long enough, the other person will eventually become more understanding, more respectful, more honest, or more mature. But real growth does not happen because someone else wants it to happen. Growth happens when a person chooses it for themselves. You cannot force someone to become kind if they do not value kindness. You cannot teach respect to someone who enjoys disrespecting others. You cannot convince someone to be honest when they are comfortable with deception. No matter how much effort you invest, you cannot do the inner work that another person refuses to do. Many people spend years trying to rescue others while slowly neglecting themselves. They become emotionally exhausted because they are carrying responsibilities that were never theirs to carry. The painful reality is that some people will not change until they experience the consequences of their own choices, and some may never change at all. Accepting this truth is difficult, but it is also the beginning of emotional freedom. The desire to fix people often comes from a good place. It comes from compassion, loyalty, and hope. You see someone's potential and become attached to who they could be rather than who they actually are. You remember their promises, their good moments, or the person they showed you at the beginning, and you keep waiting for that version of them to return. Meanwhile, you ignore the reality standing in front of you. You excuse behavior that should not be excused. You tolerate disrespect that should not be tolerated. You continue giving chances to people who continue making the same choices. Over time, this creates a heavy emotional burden. You begin carrying their problems, their emotions, their mistakes, and their responsibilities while receiving very little in return. The more you try to save someone who does not want to save themselves, the more drained you become. Emotionally strong people understand the difference between supporting someone and trying to control their growth. They can offer advice, encouragement, and support, but they know they cannot force transformation. They understand that every individual is responsible for their own decisions, their own mindset, and their own personal development. The moment you stop taking responsibility for someone else's growth, you free yourself from a burden that was never meant to be yours. The most powerful shift happens when you stop focusing on changing others and start focusing on yourself. Instead of asking, "How can I fix this person?" you begin asking, "How can I improve my own life?" Instead of investing all your energy into changing someone who resists growth, you invest that energy into your goals, your health, your mindset, your peace, and your future. This is where true freedom begins. Your emotional burden becomes lighter because you are no longer carrying the weight of another person's choices. You stop feeling responsible for outcomes you cannot control. You stop chasing people who refuse to meet you halfway. You stop sacrificing your well-being for the sake of someone else's potential. The truth is that you are not responsible for saving everyone you meet. Your responsibility is to protect your peace, honor your values, and continue growing into the person you are meant to become. Some people will choose growth, and others will choose to remain exactly as they are. That decision belongs to them. But your decision belongs to you. The moment you accept that you cannot change everyone, you stop wasting energy on impossible missions and start creating a life that is healthier, stronger, and far more peaceful. Emotional detachment is one of the most misunderstood concepts in personal growth. Many people hear the word detachment and assume it means becoming cold, distant, or indifferent. They imagine someone who no longer cares about people, relationships, or life itself. But true emotional detachment is something entirely different. It does not mean you stop caring, it means you stop allowing other people's behavior to dictate your emotions, your peace, and your state of mind. It means understanding that you can care deeply about someone without becoming emotionally controlled by them. Many people live as emotional prisoners because their mood depends on how others treat them. If someone praises them, they feel good. If someone criticizes them, they feel worthless. If someone approves of them, they feel confident. If someone rejects them, they feel broken. Their emotional state constantly rises and falls based on external circumstances. Emotional detachment breaks this cycle. It teaches you that while you cannot always control what people say, do, or think, you can control how much influence those actions have over your inner world. The moment you stop handing over control of your emotions to other people, you begin developing a level of freedom that very few individuals ever experience. Toxic people often depend on emotional reactions because reactions give them power. They know exactly which buttons to push, which words to use, and which situations to create in order to provoke anger, guilt, frustration, fear, or insecurity. They thrive when they can pull you into arguments, make you question yourself, or keep you emotionally occupied with their behavior. Every reaction becomes proof that they still have influence over your mind. This is why emotionally detached people are so difficult to manipulate. They refuse to give toxic individuals the response they are seeking. Instead of reacting impulsively, they pause. Instead of allowing emotions to control their decisions, they respond with awareness and self-control. When criticized unfairly, they do not immediately become defensive. When provoked, they do not automatically explode with anger. When someone attempts to create drama, they do not rush to participate. They remain calm, thoughtful, and emotionally balanced. This calmness is not weakness, it is strength under control. Anyone can react emotionally when circumstances become difficult. It takes true discipline to remain composed when others are trying to pull you into chaos. The more emotionally detached you become, the less power toxic people have over you because their influence depends on your reaction. Once the reaction disappears, much of their power disappears with it. Mastering emotional detachment is one of the highest forms of emotional intelligence because it allows you to protect your peace without losing your compassion. You can still love people without allowing them to manipulate you. You can still care about others without carrying their emotional burdens. You can still support someone without becoming responsible for their choices. Emotional detachment teaches you to observe situations clearly rather than through the lens of overwhelming emotion. It helps you make decisions based on wisdom rather than impulse. Instead of being controlled by every disappointment, criticism, or setback, you learn to remain centered and focused on what truly matters. Life becomes lighter because you stop carrying emotions that do not belong to you. You stop feeling responsible for fixing everyone, pleasing everyone, or convincing everyone to understand you. You accept that some people will misunderstand you, some will disagree with you, and some will never appreciate your value, and you make peace with that reality. When you master emotional detachment, you no longer react to life from a place of weakness. You respond from a place of wisdom, and that is where real power is found. Many good-hearted people struggle with setting boundaries because they confuse boundaries with selfishness. They believe that saying no makes them rude, protecting their time makes them uncaring, or prioritizing their own well-being makes them a bad person. As a result, they spend much of their lives trying to keep everyone else happy while quietly exhausting themselves in the process. Toxic individuals often recognize this weakness and take advantage of it. They know that guilt can be a powerful tool, so they push beyond healthy limits, make unreasonable demands, and expect endless access to your time, energy, and emotional support. The more you give, the more they expect. What starts as kindness slowly turns into obligation, and what begins as generosity eventually becomes emotional exhaustion. Many people find themselves overwhelmed, frustrated, and resentful because they have spent years saying yes when they wanted to say no. They fear disappointing others, yet they constantly disappoint themselves. The truth is that every time you ignore your own needs to satisfy someone else's unhealthy expectations, you send a message that your boundaries do not matter. Over time, people learn how much they can take from you based on what you are willing to tolerate. This is why learning to set boundaries is not just important, it is essential for a healthy and balanced life. Boundaries are not punishments. They are acts of self-respect. They are not walls designed to keep good people out, they are guidelines that protect your peace, your values, and your emotional well-being. Healthy boundaries tell others what is acceptable and what is not. They communicate that your time has value, your energy has limits, and your mental health deserves protection. Unfortunately, when people begin setting boundaries for the first time, they often experience guilt. This happens because they are used to putting everyone else's needs ahead of their own. The moment they start protecting themselves, it feels uncomfortable. Some people around them may even react negatively because they benefited from the absence of boundaries. They may accuse you of changing, becoming distant, or being selfish. But remember this. People who respected you only when you had no boundaries were never truly respecting you in the first place. They were simply enjoying unlimited access to your time and energy. Emotionally strong people understand that they do not need permission to protect their peace. They can say no without explaining themselves endlessly. They can walk away from unhealthy situations without feeling guilty. They understand that every healthy relationship respects boundaries, while toxic relationships constantly try to break them. Strong boundaries create strong lives because they allow you to focus your energy on what truly matters. When you stop saying yes to everything, you create space for your goals, your growth, your health, and your happiness. You become less overwhelmed because you are no longer carrying responsibilities that do not belong to you. You develop greater confidence because you begin honoring your own needs instead of constantly sacrificing them. Most importantly, you teach people how to treat you through the standards you consistently maintain. Every time you protect your time, you teach others that your time is valuable. Every time you refuse disrespect, you teach others that respect is required. Every time you walk away from manipulation, you teach others that your peace is not negotiable. Weak boundaries create endless frustration because they invite people to cross lines that should never have been crossed. Strong boundaries, on the other hand, create clarity, confidence, and freedom. They allow you to build relationships based on mutual respect rather than obligation. Never feel guilty for protecting your energy, your peace, and your well-being. The people who truly care about you will respect your boundaries, and those who become angry often reveal exactly why those boundaries were needed in the first place. The need for validation is one of the most powerful emotional traps a person can fall into. Many people spend years chasing approval without even realizing it. They constantly look to others to determine their worth, their value, and even their identity. They feel confident when they are praised and insecure when they are criticized. Their happiness rises when they receive attention and falls when they are ignored. Over time, their self-worth becomes dependent on external opinions rather than internal belief. Toxic people often recognize this vulnerability and use it to their advantage. They understand that someone who constantly seeks approval is easier to influence, manipulate, and control. This is why many toxic relationships operate on a cycle of inconsistent validation. One day they shower you with praise, attention, and affection, making you feel important and appreciated. The next day they become distant, cold, or dismissive, leaving you confused and desperate to regain their approval. This emotional roller coaster keeps people trapped because they become focused on winning back the validation that was suddenly taken away. Instead of asking whether the relationship is healthy, they become obsessed with proving their worth to someone who controls approval like a reward. The more they chase validation, the more power they give away. The truth is that no amount of external approval will ever create lasting confidence. Even if everyone around you praises you today, there will always be someone tomorrow who disagrees, criticizes, or misunderstands you. If your confidence depends on the opinions of others, it will always be fragile because opinions constantly change. One person may admire you while another judges you. One person may support your dreams while another doubts them. One person may appreciate your efforts while another ignores them completely. If you build your self-worth on these shifting foundations, you will spend your entire life seeking reassurance from people who are often dealing with their own insecurities, biases, and limitations. Emotionally strong people understand that validation from others can feel good, but it should never become necessary for their sense of worth. They stop measuring their value by the amount of attention they receive, the number of compliments they hear, or the approval of people around them. Instead, they begin developing an internal source of confidence that cannot be easily shaken. They know who they are, what they stand for, and what they are working toward. Because of this, they do not need constant reassurance to feel secure. Their belief in themselves becomes stronger than the opinions of those around them. Emotionally unreachable people break free from the validation trap by learning to validate themselves. They recognize their own progress even when nobody applauds it. They appreciate their own efforts even when no one notices. They acknowledge their strengths without needing others to point them out. Most importantly, they stop handing over the responsibility for their happiness to other people. This does not mean they become arrogant or reject all feedback. It means they no longer depend on external approval to feel worthy. Their confidence comes from keeping promises to themselves, staying true to their values, overcoming challenges, and continuing to grow despite setbacks. They understand that real confidence is built through action, not applause. The moment you stop seeking validation from everyone around you, something powerful happens. You become less vulnerable to manipulation, less affected by criticism, and less desperate for attention. You stop changing who you are to gain acceptance and start living according to your own standards. You no longer chase approval because you realize that your worth was never something that needed to be earned from others. It was already within you. The strongest people are not those who receive the most validation, they are those who have learned to stand confidently even when validation never comes. That is true freedom, and that is where genuine self-confidence begins. Many people spend a large part of their lives trying to prove themselves to others who have already made up their minds. They feel the need to explain their choices, defend their dreams, and convince people who were never truly invested in their success. This creates a cycle where energy is constantly wasted on gaining approval that may never come. The harder they try to be understood, the more they become emotionally drained, because validation from the wrong people is never satisfying for long. Toxic individuals often do not celebrate growth, instead, they feel uncomfortable when someone around them begins to rise. Your progress can expose their excuses, your discipline can highlight their lack of effort, and your success can remind them of opportunities they chose not to take. For this reason, they may downplay your achievements, ignore your hard work, or even criticize your journey instead of acknowledging your effort. But when you understand this pattern, you stop expecting recognition from those who were never going to give it sincerely in the first place. Instead of arguing with doubt or trying to force people to see your value, the most powerful response is silent improvement. Real strength is built when you stop reacting to every opinion and start focusing on your own growth. Every hour spent proving yourself to others is an hour taken away from becoming better. Every emotional debate about your worth delays your progress. Every attempt to convince the wrong audience weakens your focus. When you shift your attention inward, something powerful begins to happen. You start improving your skills, your mindset, your discipline, and your direction in life. You become less concerned with being understood and more committed to becoming undeniable. At some point, your consistency speaks louder than your explanations ever could. People who once doubted you are forced to acknowledge your progress, not because you convinced them, but because your results became impossible to ignore. Silence, when paired with steady growth, becomes one of the strongest forms of communication. Let your success become your statement. Let your progress answer the questions you no longer feel the need to entertain. There is a deep kind of peace that comes when you stop chasing approval and start building results. You no longer feel the pressure to defend your journey because your work begins to speak for itself. You realize that you do not need everyone to understand your path for it to be valid. The right people will recognize your effort, while the wrong ones will always find something to criticize. That is why emotional strength is not about proving others wrong, it is about staying focused on becoming better regardless of what others say. In the end, nothing frustrates negativity more than a person who continues to grow without seeking permission, validation, or approval. When you reach that level, you are no longer competing for attention, you are simply building a life that speaks louder than words ever could. One of the most powerful shifts a person can make in life is learning to choose peace over being right. Many people waste their emotional energy trying to win arguments, prove points, or correct every misunderstanding, even when the outcome does not truly matter. They believe that if they can just explain themselves better or find the perfect words, the other person will finally understand. But in reality, most conflicts are not about understanding at all. They are about control, ego, and emotional dominance. Toxic individuals often thrive in these situations because debates keep them connected to your emotions. As long as you are reacting, defending, or trying to prove your side, they feel engaged and in control of the interaction. The more you argue, the deeper you get pulled into a cycle that drains your energy without bringing any real resolution. Many people do not realize that every unnecessary argument comes with a cost. It steals your peace, disturbs your focus, and keeps your mind trapped in negativity long after the conversation is over. In the end, even if you win the argument, you often lose your calm, your time, and your emotional balance. That is not a real victory. Emotionally strong individuals understand something that others often learn too late: not every battle is worth fighting. They recognize that silence is sometimes more powerful than explanation. Walking away is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the ability to see beyond ego and choose what truly matters in the long run. When you stop engaging in every conflict, you begin to notice a major shift in your life. You become less reactive and more thoughtful. You stop trying to convince people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop pouring energy into conversations that only exist to provoke frustration. Instead of getting caught in emotional traps, you protect your inner calm like something valuable, because it is. Peace is not something that just happens, it is something you actively protect through your choices. Every time you choose not to argue, you reclaim a small piece of your energy. Every time you refuse to engage in unnecessary conflict, you strengthen your emotional control. Over time, this discipline transforms your mindset. You stop feeling the need to respond to every opinion and start focusing on what actually improves your life. Choosing peace over being right does not mean you have nothing to say or that your opinion does not matter. It means you have learned the difference between what deserves your energy and what does not. Some conversations are not meant to be solved, they are meant to be escaped. Some people are not looking for truth, they are looking for reaction. When you understand this, you stop feeding arguments that have no positive outcome. You begin to value your peace more than your pride. And in doing so, you gain something far greater than victory in a debate. You gain control over your emotions, your attention, and your life. The strongest people are not those who win every argument, they are those who know which arguments are not worth having in the first place. That level of awareness is what protects your peace and keeps your life stable, focused, and emotionally free. Your mind is the most powerful space you will ever control, because everything you become in life first takes shape there. Every belief you hold, every decision you make, and every direction you take begins as a thought. This is why guarding your mind is not just important, it is essential for your future. If toxic people are constantly occupying your thoughts, replaying their words in your head, or influencing how you see yourself, then they are not just affecting your emotions, they are slowly shaping your identity. Many people do not realize that mental energy is just as valuable as physical time. When your mind is filled with negativity, overthinking, resentment, or the opinions of people who do not truly understand you, there is little space left for clarity, creativity, and growth. Toxic individuals often gain indirect control over others simply by staying in their thoughts long after the interaction is over. They do not need to be physically present to influence you, your mind continues the conversation for them. The longer you allow that space to be occupied, the more your focus shifts away from your goals and toward emotional distractions that do not serve your growth. Becoming emotionally unreachable starts with becoming selective about what you allow into your mental world. Not every thought deserves attention. Not every opinion deserves space. Not every memory deserves repetition. Just like you would carefully choose what you bring into your home, you must carefully choose what you allow into your mind. Emotional strength is built by filtering your thoughts instead of letting them run freely without direction. This means stopping the habit of replaying negative conversations, questioning your worth based on someone else's judgment, or imagining worst-case scenarios created by fear or insecurity. Instead, you consciously redirect your focus toward what strengthens you. You fill your inner world with purpose instead of doubt, wisdom instead of confusion, gratitude instead of resentment, and growth instead of stagnation. Over time, this creates a mental environment where negativity struggles to survive because it is no longer being fed with attention. Toxic influence loses its grip not because the world becomes perfect, but because your mind becomes disciplined enough not to entertain what does not deserve space. When you become the guardian of your mind, you take full responsibility for your emotional and mental direction. You stop allowing external noise to dictate your internal state. You realize that while you cannot control everything that happens around you, you can control what happens within you. This shift changes everything. You become calmer in situations that once triggered you. You become clearer in decisions that once confused you. You become stronger in moments that once broke your focus. The more you protect your mental space, the less power toxic people have over your life, because their influence depends on your attention. Without attention, their words lose weight, their opinions lose control, and their negativity loses meaning. What remains is your inner world, strong, stable, and grounded in your own values. This is the real freedom, not a life free from negativity, but a mind so disciplined that negativity can no longer take root inside it. The day you stop seeking approval, stop explaining yourself, stop reacting to negativity, and start protecting your peace is the day your life begins to transform. Toxic people lose power when they can no longer control your emotions. Remember, strength is not found in fighting every battle. Strength is found in knowing which battles are not worth your energy. Your peace is valuable. Your energy is valuable. Your life is valuable. Protect them at all costs. What is the one toxic behavior, relationship, or habit that you are ready to stop giving emotional power to starting today? If you think this video provided valuable insight and helped you see your worth more clearly, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more powerful self-growth content. Also, share your thoughts in the comments section below. Your story could inspire someone who is fighting the same battle today.